So from the biblical editor's perspective back in this ancient day, look at verse 25 of chapter 23. And like unto him was there no king before him that turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Neither after him arose there any like him. So it kind
Speaking of Josiah.
Speaking of Josiah, it sets him in a pretty incredible position right before Lehi comes onto the scene.
But the very next verse is interesting. You've often pointed out this word notwithstanding. Notwithstanding all the good that Josiah did to refurbish the temple, to read the covenantal instructions to people and invite them into the covenant. In fact, in some ways, it's almost like a King Benjamin speech back there in chapter 2 Kings 22. Notwithstanding that, there was so much wickedness in the land that the Lord turned not from his fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations that Manasseh had provoked him withal. Just kind of sad that the people still, because of a bad king, could not fully overcome generations of habitual wickedness.
So eventually we shift now to verse 36 with Jehoiakim, who was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he gets 11 years on the throne in Jerusalem. Verse 37, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. Here we go again. It's this repeat story. Well, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, which is to the east, he comes and he's got control over Jerusalem, and they're supposed to be paying tribute and paying their taxes. They once again are looking to Egypt to help deliver them. Egypt is kind of this old dynasty that doesn't have the power that they used to back in the day. But you'll notice the kingdom of Judah is looking for help in Egypt. They're looking down to Egypt rather than up to God.
Like Hezekiah had done during the time of Isaiah, where he had turned to God when the Assyrians had been threatening. And now the Babylonians, who'd overthrown the Assyrians, now are wanting to take over all these lands the Assyrians used to own and extract all the resources.
So what's going to end up happening is Nebuchadnezzar comes in chapter 24, verse 10, and you get the first wave of conquest. So the first group now gets removed. This is about 597. So Lehi's only been gone 3 years when you get that first wave of people removed out to Babylon, including the king.
The king,
Jehoiakim.
the leaders, the wealthy people, the merchants. Lehi definitely would have been taken into Babylonian captivity had he stuck around.
Exactly. And so would Ishmael, and probably Zoram, and Laban, quite frankly. Look at verse 17. The king of Babylon made Mattaniah, his father's brother, king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. There you're introduced to that king that opens up the Book of Mormon in those first few verses where it tells that they're from Jerusalem in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah. It's this Zedekiah who is also the father of Mulek, or the Mulekites, that are going to meet the people of King Mosiah I when he comes down into the land of Zarahemla from the land of Nephi in roughly 200 BC. So all of these stories should start to be connecting for us. So the timing, the calendars, our way of reckoning time, it's a little tricky to know exactly how it lines up with our current Gregorian calendar looking back into this BC time period. What we know is the Book of Mormon opens with Lehi in Jerusalem during the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, who is put on the throne as kind of a puppet king by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, after he's taken out that first wave of people.
And you'd think that people want to listen like, we've lost a lot of people. Maybe we should listen to the prophets and things will go better. And like, no, nothing bad can happen to Jerusalem. Wait, have you guys just missed what's been going on recently? It's amazing as humans how easily we can get distracted with the mundane things of the world or whatever it might be and miss the clear call to trust God so that he can save us.
So Zedekiah is 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. So you'll notice Jerusalem falls to Babylon ultimately. The final siege from Babylon really kicks in 587 and finalizes in 586 BC when they're destroyed. And 586 is when he's carried captive into Babylon. That's interesting because he started when he was 21. He reigns for, it's in his 11th year, so he's 31 or 32 when he's carried captive, and all of his children are killed. But there's one that isn't mentioned here in the Bible that we get in that Book of Mormon. Mulek, one of the children, who apparently was carried away safely and brought over to the Americas.
So the Hebrew word for king is melech. So Zedekiah is the king. One of his sons would be going to become the next king. So what might you call a young king? You might call them a Mulek, a little king. So it's interesting that Zedekiah's son's name is Mulek, which means little king. He may have been 8, 9, 10, maybe just a young teenager when Mulek was able to get out of Jerusalem and make his way over to the New World.